Well, let me ask you something, Mama. When was the last time you rested without having to earn it? Not because you were sick or because you hit a wall or because somebody forced you to slow down, but because you recognize that you are worthy of rest. Not now, if you're anything like me, even hearing that question can feel a little uncomfortable because somewhere along the way, many of us started believing that rest was something we had to earn, that we had to deserve, that once the dishes were done, then once the laundry is folded, then once the email is answered, then once everybody else's needs are met, then maybe if there's anything left, we can sit down. But let's be honest, the work is never really done. Like never ever. Like especially if you're a mom. If somebody ever proposed to you, oh, when they turn 18, that's on them. No, it never stops. They could be 25, they could be 33, they could be 54. It never stops. They are always going to be your children, right? And that's the same thing with work. There's always going to be something that needs to be done, whether it's another load of laundry, another project, another responsibility, which means if rest only comes after everything is finished, then rest never comes. Really? And today I want to have a conversation about permission to rest and slow down and embrace margin because, Mama, you don't have to earn something God already designated. He already designed rest. So we'll talk about all of that when we return. Well, hello, Mama, and welcome back to another episode of the Making of a Mompreneur show. I am your host, Rashida Green, the founder and CEO of Get Right Coaching, the host of this wonderful Mompreneur HQ community, and the creator of the Digimompreneur Academy, where we help moms who are determined to find time, money, and location freedom to start, grow, and scale an online business so that they can build the life of their dreams without neglecting themselves or their families in the process. And we do that through coaching, content, community, and the Digimompreneur Academy. Well, if you are joining us live, make sure you put hashtag live and tell us where you're tuning in from. So it looks something like hashtag live New Jersey, right? If you're from watching from New Jersey, go ahead and drop that in there. We and of course, if you are joining us via the replay, definitely just go ahead and put hashtag replay and where you're tuning in from because we still love you and appreciate you for even joining us after the fact. Why? Because you're still getting the information. You are still in the community and getting to know what it is that we're sharing in the Mompreneur HQ community. And today we're wrapping up not only our self-care pillar, but our entire BFF series. So we've talked about B for business, we've talked about F for faith, we've talked about F for family, and now we're ending our series on S for self-care. And honestly, I think this is exactly where we should end because after all of the building and dreaming and praying and caregiving, I want us to remember something important. You matter too. Yes, you. You matter too. And it's not just the business that we're focusing on, or the family, or the ministry, or everybody else. You. That's right. You matter too. And I know that sounds simple, but I think there are moms listening right now who haven't thought about themselves in a long time. Not because they're selfish, but because they become so good at taking care of everybody else. And today, I just want us to sit together for a little while and talk about rest. All right, if you are joining us, um, remember that you can like, comment, subscribe, or share. Find us on all of our social media like Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at the Digimompreneur. Let us know that what type of content you want, comments on our shows and episodes so that we can, get that interaction. Hey, I'm a business owner talking to other business owners, right? So you know how important it is to get those, to get the algorithm to be on your side. So if you could help us out by doing that, we would greatly appreciate it. Now, for this BFF series, we didn't really harbor too much on writing, taking down copious notes or things like that, although they were all teaching different aspects of the BFFs. We really want to talk about self-care and wrap this series up and get to the heart of the matter. And one of the things is why moms feel guilty about rest. You know what I've noticed? Moms are funny. Not funny like ha ha, laugh, laugh, joke, joke, but funny because we're interested, because we'll tell our children to get some sleep. Oh, you got to go to bed now. You need your full 10 hours, depending on the age, right? You need your sleep. We will encourage our husbands, hey, you need to take a break. You've been working very hard for this family. You just need to take a break. We'll tell our good girlfriends, oh, girl, you need to just slow down. You got too much going on over there. But somehow, those same rules just never seem to apply to us. We become the exception to the rule. Girl, don't you worry about me. I got this. I'm fine. And then I wonder how many of us have tied our worth to our usefulness. How many of us have secretly felt valuable because we were needed? Because if we're not producing, if we're not helping, if we're not serving, if we're not fixing something, then what are we doing? And I think that's why rest can feel uncomfortable. I was definitely at that place where I felt like I didn't have an identity outside of mom, outside of wife, and that was also one of the reasons why I started my own business. I was like, I gotta have something for myself. But when rest feels uncomfortable, it's usually because rest forces us to sit with ourselves. That's it. We have to stop achieving for a singular moment. And that can feel strange when you've spent years, maybe even your entire life, being the person that everyone depends on. But can I lovingly tell you something, sis? You don't have to prove your value through exhaustion. You don't have to earn your place through overworking. And you certainly don't have to feel guilty every time you sit down, because your value isn't found in what you do, it's found in whose you are. Matthew 11:28 states, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." I love that Jesus didn't say, "Oh, girl, when you finish everything, come on over here. Oh, come on when you finish, making the bed, washing the clothes." He didn't say all that. He said, "Come when you're weary." And how many of us get weary, get tired, get frustrated, want to lay down, and then we choose not to? No, no, no. He said, "Come when you're weary," because he already knew that we need restoration. So let's talk about that. How even Jesus rested. I think sometimes we act like rest is weakness. Like somehow stronger people don't need it. Like more disciplined people don't need it. If we just had enough faith, we'd keep pushing. Now, let's think about that. Let's think about Jesus. And one of my favorite images in scripture is Jesus asleep in the boat, right? The storm was raging. Everybody else is panicking. And Jesus is in the boat sleeping. Now, if we could be honest, if that had been me, I probably would have been trying to steer the boat and calm everybody down at the same time. Okay, y'all, we got it. Come on, calm down, everybody. Oh, just hold on, right? But Jesus, no, he slept. Not because he didn't care. That's probably what they were thinking and saying out loud. And it was certainly wasn't because he wasn't aware. Like he knew exactly what was going on. And it wasn't about him being lazy. No, I ain't getting up. Let them deal with it. He rested because he trusted. Did that hit you right in your gut? He rested because he trusted. And I wonder if sometimes our inability to rest has less to do about productivity and more to do about trust. I'm just going to stop right there. I'm sorry. Because resting requires believing that everything doesn't depend on us. We have to trust that things will get done according to God's will. And if we're honest, some of us have been carrying things that God never told us to carry. Everybody's feelings ain't my responsibility. Everybody's expectations, it's not your responsibility. Everybody's emergencies. Oh yeah, that one used to get me because my somebody taught me a saying about that. Don't make your emergency my problem. Right? Oh my gosh, my car just stopped running and I need somebody to bring me some gas now because I'm on the side of the road. Now, mind you, if you're on the side of the road, I'm going to help you. I'm going to try to get you. But why did your gas run out? Could that be because you didn't put no gas in the tank? Because you thought you was going to get somewhere on that little bit of E on the highway? So now it's your emergency because of your neglect. But now you want me to get out of my comfortable bed or stop whatever I'm doing to come get you out of the jam that you put yourself in. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Me personally, I would probably drop everything that I'm doing to try to help you. Why? Because this is what we do. But I'm trying to tell you, this God is working things out according to his will. And sometimes some people need to learn the lesson. And if you keep being their savior, they will not learn the lesson. They will keep getting into the problem and the situation and keep calling you to fix it, to heal it, to relieve them of their stresses and their problems and their sins. And they don't go to God. So they also stop trusting God, right? You're allowing them to trust you to the point where they don't need God because you're their little G. You're their savior. You're their rescue. They're going to always call on you, and you're going to go because you are compassionate. You are dependable, and they're always going to call you, and you're going to go. And you're going to create the habit and the comfortability that whenever I'm in a jam, I'm going to call mama. I'm not going to call on the Lord. Why would I do that? He takes his time. He does it when he wants to do it. Right? I think I just went in a tangent, but mind me not. It's still a valid point that you have to acknowledge that sometimes the reason why we don't rest is because we don't trust God to do what God does. And when we allow ourselves to be someone else's savior, then that person ends up not trusting God either because they're putting all their eggs in your basket. So when I say that God doesn't want us, there's some things that God did not give us to carry, but we just keep on carrying it like it's our load to do. It is not. Everybody's problem is not our problem. And we're exhausted because we're trying to be God for everybody else. Meanwhile, God is like, daughter, I didn't ask you to carry all of that, right? He didn't. He said, when you're weak and heavy laden, come unto me and rest. And maybe rest is really an act of surrender. Maybe it's just you saying, Lord, I'm going to sleep because you don't. He never sleeps. He neither slumbers nor sleep. So rest If Jesus can do it, so can you. Okay? Yes. All right. So, margin is not wasted space. Something else I've been learning, Mama, is that not every square inch of our lives has to be occupied. It does not. Not every minute needs to be productive. It does not. Not every open space on the calendar needs to be filled. Leave it alone. Like, leave it. Don't add nothing back in it. Say no, right? But somewhere along the way, many of us, many of us started believing that empty space was wasteful. Oh gosh, there's an empty space on my calendar. How dare I leave that space there? It's like if we had an hour free, we have got to fill it. What are we going to do with that hour? I can't just rest. I can't just sit down and do nothing. If we had a Saturday open, we should schedule something. Yes, let's put something there. If we have a few moments to ourselves, we should catch up on something like, oh, remember that thing I said I was going to do that I didn't do? And then before long, our lives become so crowded that we leave no room for interruptions. We don't even get time on our calendar to just enjoy the time alone, the time not working, the time not doing something, right? There's no room for joy. There's no room for spontaneity. There's no room for stillness and meditation. There's no room for God to even surprise us. Like, what if he had a surprise for us and he was waiting for an empty space on your calendar and he can't even get on your calendar to give you this surprise? Somebody out there wanted to take you out to lunch. You had a free hour, but you booked it. And now when they call you, you don't have, I can't make it. And then we wonder why we're tired. We're filling up every gap in our calendar and wondering why we're tired, because crowded calendars, what they do, they create crowded hearts. And I think one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves is margin. We need that breathing room, not because we're lazy. Absolutely not. It's because we're human. We need to be able to rest. In Psalms 23, it says, he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He's not rushing. He's not maximizing. He's restoring my soul. And I've been thinking about that. Still waters. Green pastures. Those aren't images of rushing. That's peace in the way I said it, the words themselves, and how I feel when I think of those words. Still waters. I imagine myself sitting on the dock of the bay, something just, still waters, just relaxation and just thinking about nothing, just looking at the reflection in the water. Like I said, peace. And maybe peace isn't something we find. Maybe peace is something we make room for. Did you think of that? That's why we should stop glorifying busy. Can we talk about busy for a minute? Because I think our culture rewards busy. Busy makes us feel important. Busy makes us feel productive. Busy makes us feel needed. Oh, yeah, I got to go here. I got to go there because this one does this and this one asked me to be that and that one. We feel important, right? That's a little ego thing. And if we're not careful, we start wearing exhaustion like a badge of honor, like, wow, right there. Girl, I've been so busy. I am the one that says it. Girl, I say it all the time. I've been so busy. Somebody asked me what I do. Oh, girl, I'll just be busy. and if I think about it, I just be busy. Not productive, not doing the things that I need to be doing for myself, for my business, for my family, but just being busy. Yeah, that's not good. And then I got the nerve to be complaining. Oh, last night, y'all, I only got 4 hours of sleep. And that was my testimony the other day because I had to get caught up on this Netflix show. But, just tired. I haven't had a day off in months. Well, I actually, these are things that we say when we're busy and we're thinking about how important we are because we're so busy. But, I personally have not had a lot of days off except for holidays, because in the first quarter of the year, early second quarter of the year, I had been traveling. I don't know if y'all knew I was doing so much traveling, but I have done so much out of the country. I had 3 back-to-back out of country travel experiences within 7 weeks time. So no, I don't have any more days. I don't have any days off I can take until about August or so. But oh yeah, no, I don't have any more days, and proud of it. Um, and and we think of these things and we say these things as if depletion is proof of dedication. Like, yeah, I'm hardcore with this. But I've learned something over the past few years is that busy and fruitful are not always the same thing. I just said that they are not always the same thing. You can be busy and disconnected. You can be busy and anxious, busy and unhealthy because you're so busy running, 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 running. You're not getting your rest. You're not eating the proper meals, so forth and so on. And can I confess something? There have been seasons in my life where I thought I was being productive when really I was just being unavailable. Right? I was being unavailable because I'm always doing something. So when the kids want to do something, no, I can't. Your husband want to go somewhere, no, because I'm just so tired. And then being unavailable is not just physically, emotionally unavailable. I'm drained, mentally unavailable because so much is going in my brain that it's just mental overload. And then sometimes even spiritually unavailable, right? Because I just feel so drained that maybe I'm not getting in the time in the mornings for meditation and prayers during the day or at night. And then I'm thinking, I don't want that anymore. I don't want a life that looks successful on the outside. Oh, she's so successful. But then I'm exhausted on the inside. Lord, help me with that. Because what good is building something beautiful if you're too tired to enjoy it? Come on, if I'm looking for freedom, how am I going to enjoy freedom if I'm too busy to experience it? And what good is a dream if I'm depleted and can't even live it out fully? Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." It doesn't say hustle and know. It doesn't say strive and know. It says be still. And guess what? He knows. If you be still and know who he is, then sometimes we need to recognize that stillness is spiritual. So that stillness in our bodies, in our minds, in our spirit is what we can use to get that peace that we were talking about. Next, I would say, let's rediscover joy. You know what I think happens to a lot of us moms? We become so responsible that we forget what we enjoy. We're planners. Oh, absolutely. We can plan something to death. We can plan a birthday, a retirement party, a tooth, somebody losing a tooth. We got all these plans and we're caretakers, we're providers. We have all these roles and responsibilities. We're always fixing things. We coordinate this and we coordinate that. We problem solve all the issues that the kids are going through, the neighbors is going through, our friends are going through. And after years of doing all those things, somebody asks us, so what do you do for fun? And they genuinely want to know. And we just, kind of stare at them like, oh, well, you know what? I do like going to the movies, but I don't even know when the last time I went to the movies. Well, I really used to like going to go skating, but, but I don't remember the last time I went skating. Oh, let me think about this. Right? We gotta try to come up with something because it's been so long that we've done something for ourselves or enjoyed something for ourselves that we kind of just it just fades. We're swallowed up by the events. So that's why we want to make sure that we're rediscovering joy. And it's not because we don't want joy, but because it's been so long since we thought about it. And maybe that's the invitation, not to become irresponsible or to abandon our responsibilities, but to remember that we are people too, and that we do have personalities and preferences and interests and things that make us laugh, things that make us feel alive. Because before you were anybody's mother, anybody's wife, anybody's coach or employee, you were God's daughter. And daughters are allowed to experience joy. They're allowed to laugh and enjoy life. And we're also allowed to rest. Sometimes I think God is less concerned about our productivity than we are. I'm almost positive. Now he has purpose for our lives, so those things we need to get to. But sometimes it's not about being productive. And I think he's more concerned with our hearts, because he never intended for us to spend our entire lives crossing things off a list. So, what does rest look like for you? The beautiful thing is that rest isn't one size fits all. And I think we've complicated it a bit. We've turned it into yet another project, right? We got to pencil in rest. It's another assignment. We have to pencil in self-care. Another thing that we need to do perfectly. And there is no such thing as perfect. But what if rest is simply paying attention? Pay attention to what restores you, what replenishes you, what makes you happy, not what everybody else says should restore you. You. Maybe you come alive sitting on the porch in the morning with your Bible and your sparkling juice or tea. Maybe you love taking walks and talking to God. Maybe your soul comes alive when you're laughing in the company of friends. Maybe you enjoy reading or journaling, gardening even. It's maybe it's just absolutely nothing. When you get a moment to be still, you just want to be still. And I think the point isn't what you're doing. The point is whether you're being restored, because rest should replenish you and not become yet another obligation, another thing to do. And maybe this season is an invitation to get reacquainted with yourself, not who everybody else needs you to be or wants you to be, but who God created you to be. So let me ask you something. If guilt wasn't a part of the equation, what would rest look like for you? What brings you joy? What restores your soul? And when was the last time you gave yourself permission to experience it? I don't want to hear about someday. And definitely not when everything is done, after we just said that everything is still going to be going on and everything can't be done. Everything won't be done, right? So we don't want to hold off till when everything is done. What are you talking about now? Think about that. Before we close, Mama, can I just share what's been on my heart? I hope that years from now, when you look back on this season, you don't only remember what you accomplished. I hope you remember what you enjoyed. I hope you remember the answered prayers that came in ways you didn't expect. I want you to remember the laughs around the dinner table, the rides to practice, right? You're riding to practice. You have a car load that you have to drop off, but you're talking, you're engaging, you're laughing. The conversations that you're having with your children, and those moments when you realize that God had been carrying you all along. I hope you don't look back and only see the checklists and the deadlines. I hope you see the memories. I hope you remember that while you were building something meaningful, God was building something in you, because the woman you became matters just as much as the things that you produced. And maybe that's what this whole BFFs journey has really been about. Not teaching you how to squeeze more into your life, not helping you to become superwoman, but reminding you that God cares about the whole woman, your business, your faith, your family, and yes, the woman looking back at you in the mirror. Because healthy things grow. They don't get stuck and stagnant and exhausted and depleted. Whole things flourish, and beautiful lives are built slowly, one faithful day at a time. I hope that with our series, this BFFs Pillars series, that you were able to gain something important, gain some knowledge and some understanding um, that will help you in your development as a mom entrepreneur, because the mom entrepreneur or the mompreneur HQ community is about the whole you, not just about the the promotions, the milestones, the goals. And don't get me wrong, those things matter, but I think success looks different to me now than it did before. And these days, I think success is being able to enjoy what God has given you. It's being present enough to laugh with your family. It's laying your head down at night with peace. It's being healthy enough to enjoy the blessings that you prayed for. It's having something to show for your life without losing yourself or your family in the process. I think that's the kind of life we're really after. So I want you to keep building, keep believing, and keep becoming the woman of God, that the woman that God created you to be. That concludes our BFF series. I can't wait to continue with our next episode of the Making of the Mompreneur Show. Until next time.